Hey, good morning. Well, it is June 12th today, and it's good to be here. And uh, as we go through our reading today, there are several interesting little narratives. But there's three things that I thought I would share with you quickly. And they come out of the account of Naboth and his vineyard, and Elijah confronting Ahab, and then ultimately Jehoshaphat from Judah making an alliance with Ahab. Those are basically the three accounts that are in here. There's also an account about Ben-Hadad of Syria, who is ultimately defeated by Ahab. But the things I want to point out to you today are having to do with Naboth and his vineyard. You know, I've always read that account and thought about how evil King Ahab is, and in one sense he's evil, but he's weak. His wife Jezebel, on the other hand, is also evil, but she's very strong. In fact, she really ran the household and the family and probably the kingdom in many respects. But um, you don't typically, and as you know, there's Naboth who wouldn't give up his vineyard, and therefore King Ahab brooded on the couch behind everybody else at the dinner table and had his face turned towards the wall, pouting like a child. Jezebel has Naboth killed, false accusations, and the other party in this, that in reading through it, I thought, you know what? There's another evil party involved in this too, and this was the local elders who played a part in this false accusation and conspiracy against Naboth. Jezebel got them on board, and so it refers to them as the elders. And not only did they play a part in this accusation, they ultimately were a part of the stoning. And in some respects, uh, I hold them even in more contempt than I do Ahab and Jezebel. And I think so. That's the first point today, is to remember it's not just necessarily the people who do the evil. Sometimes it's the people who allow it to happen and are complicit in it in one way or another, kind of on the sidelines, but nonetheless go along with it. And I think that's a lesson for us to remember too, that it's not always being out in front and doing evil. Sometimes just the fact that you sit on the sidelines and let it happen is just as bad. The second account we have of Elijah confronting Ahab. I was thinking not only of Elijah, but also the other prophet, Micaiah, the one that Ahab says, well, I don't want to consult him because he never says anything nice about me. Many scholars think that's also the one, the unnamed prophet from chapter, I believe, 20, verse 35. But you have these two prophets, and they bring to Ahab, they bring the truth. They bring the Lord's words to Ahab, and Ahab didn't like them at all. He liked his other prophets who said what he wanted to hear. He liked the people in his cabinet who would tell him what he wanted to hear. He liked Jezebel, who would tell him what he wanted to hear. The reality is, when you think about it, Elijah and Micaiah were probably the best friends that Ahab had. And that's the second point in today's lesson I think we need to learn, is that sometimes we shouldn't just dismiss the people who offer us honest, critical evaluation, because those are the people who maybe are trying to help us the most, and we should pay attention to that, rather than just always wanting to be around the people who are going to say nice things about us and tell us how good we are. And I think that's important too. So that's point number 2 today. And then the third thing, when it comes to this alliance between Ahab and Jehoshaphat, what occurred to me, by the way, Jehoshaphat is king of Judah. He's the son of Asa, who ruled for quite a number of years. So these two are getting together. Ahab woos over Jehoshaphat because he needs to go into battle and he needs this alliance. But Jehoshaphat says, okay, and then he says, okay, now let's consult some prophets to make sure the Lord wants this to happen. Well, by then, you know, the horse is out of the barn, and I think it's interesting because it seems Jehoshaphat has made a rather, and as we'll find out in the next account, a rather large blunder, because then it is when Micaiah comes in, then is when we hear the whole story. He should have consulted the Lord first, and I think that's the third point in today's readings, for me anyway, is that how often do I just go barreling into stuff and then ask God to be a part of whatever I'm doing? And I think Jehoshaphat, like me, many times needs to make sure we turn it around and do things in their proper order. And that is, always look to the Lord. Start our day with Him, and as we go through the day, always have in mind the Lord's will as we make decisions and move forward, rather than wait till after the fact and then ask the Lord to bless whatever we're doing. So just several points in today's reading that I thought might be of value. Hope you enjoy it, and we'll look forward to talking with you again.